and welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast.
Oh, very loud. I like it.
Here we are. This is how loud I am when I'm in person.
Oh, it doesn't feel that way.
I'm yelling.
You're still Paul Stewart, though. I almost want to say your name.
I'm Paul Stewart.
Yeah, and I'm Brian Wright, and we're in Speaker Studio.
We're doing it. We're back at it.
It's been about 30 days. We looked, and we still had some Valentine's Day stuff hanging around, and
I did in my office. Yeah.
It always gives a little different energy when you're face-to-face, right? When we do this, like many of you, I'm sure most people know, we do a lot of this the night before, so we get as much information. Paul edits a lot of times, and really quickly, we try to do everything in one take. It is very honest, but it's just a different energy when we're face-to-face.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Much better. We got a lot going for us when we're face-to-face like this. So, and if you're watching us on YouTube or any of the socials, if you take a look, Brian is sporting a Milwaukee Brewers, Paul Stewart, number 15 jersey. And so he's wearing that in honor of
Paul Stewart.
And opening day.
Well, Paul Stewart, really.
Of opening day. So we've made it to opening day in baseball.
Which feels weird.
It's the Japanese kind of start. Yeah. We've talked about it a little bit. I'm not a huge fan. I know, I corresponded with our Japanese correspondent earlier today, and he said it is 24/7 coverage. Every news channel, everybody is covering the Cubs and Dodgers game out there, and he said it is crazy, and everybody loves it.
Well, I think there is a different energy to it. I mean, clearly in America, football is taken over from a culture, and it feels like from a media standpoint, they're really pushing basketball, whether it be men's and women's.
Yeah.
And baseball feels like it's kind of the lost...
The third wheel kind of sort of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that does, I think, we talk about it. Everything, when you trace it back, comes back to where the money is. And ESPN has contracts with the NBA, the WNBA, and they're promoting their product. And that's kind of the bottom line to it, I think.
Well, they had contracts with baseball.
Yeah.
But they've ended that one early. I think they're going to cover it this year a little bit. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, clearly we're baseball fans, but it does feel like the Japanese have embraced it. And almost as the culture has embraced it, even more, the better players have been produced out of there.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like, for years and years and years, you wouldn't have thought about the Japanese, like the best player in the world, coming from anywhere other than America or maybe the Dominican.
The Dominican, yeah.
Definitely not Japan.
Yeah.
And I saw where there was recently just a vote from the players, and Ohtani was number one.
So this is like the players, who's the best
The players. It's almost like the top 100 that they do with football, and it's voted on by the players. Ohtani was number one, which is hard to argue, considering somebody who hits the way he does, throws the way he does, moves the way he does.
He pitches, he hits, he runs. He runs. Yeah, he does. He's
everything. He's a 5-tool player.
He's like that kid in Little League.
That's awesome. That you want on your team.
Who does it all. And does it all really well.
Get puberty at 10 and a half.
Yeah, and he's just killing the ball. Yeah, he's
Who do you
amazing.
think number two was? You haven't seen the list.
I haven't seen the list. Aaron Judge?
That people were really surprised. Thought he would be number two. He was number three.
Bobby Witt Jr.?
Bobby Witt Jr.
Okay.
Your boy.
Yeah, I like Bobby Witt.
And I kind of think, it kind of game recognizes game. I think he doesn't get a lot of national pub, I don't think.
Because he's in Kansas City.
But does that matter for football?
No, but it's different. But the Royals are a tiny market.
That's kind of weird, though. Like, nobody says anything about the market size for Kansas City
for the Chiefs.
Nobody says nothing about their market size.
No, it's every market. Well, they talk about market. Well, it's because of salary cap. The NFL has salary cap, and it's limited to how much money they can spend. Whereas in the MLB, you get more butts and seats, you get more revenue in New York, Chicago, the bigger cities.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I guess now there's no competition with St. Louis, as far as from a football standpoint, but it's just really odd that we talk about market size for baseball so much. And I don't disagree with you that cap does have a little bit on it, but man, you talk about the second best player voted on by the fans. It seems like that would be a draw. It would be a draw.
By the players, not the fans, right?
Yeah. But, I don't know. It doesn't feel like Kansas City should be a small market when you think about baseball, when you compare it to what the football is. I don't know. It just doesn't feel that way. Like, in football, what would you consider? Who would you consider a small market team?
Green
Football.
Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Green Bay. The stadium's in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Which is pretty awesome. I've seen videos. I've never been.
Yeah, I've never been, but Green Bay. I mean, if you're going to the baseball correlation, Kansas City's a small market, right? Compared to some of the, there's teams in New York, a couple teams in New York, a team in Chicago. The bigger cities. Phoenix has a team.
Yeah, it's just interesting that it seems to be make a bigger deal out of it. And maybe you're right when
it comes down to salary cap in baseball not having a salary cap. That's why the Yankees and Mets and Red Sox.
If you were going to set a salary cap in baseball, and I know you're not a salary cap fan.
No.
And I've completely just pulled this out of the hat. I never give you really a great way to prepare when I ask you questions. Yeah. Usually you give me a heads up and I still don't prepare, but I'd never give you a heads up, just let you use that big brain. What would be the number?
So here's my thought. I would rather see a salary minimum.
I agree. Yeah.
And not a salary cap. Like each team has to spend $95 million, $100 million for their roster, right? There's a lot of teams that haven't reached that number.
Oh, for sure. I think we looked last year, and this may not be exactly right, but the range was somewhere like between 45 million on the low end
to like 350. Something crazy.
Yeah, close to 300 million, or give or take, on the top.
I mean, Shohei Ohtani's getting paid more than like 7 or 8 teams.
Does his number even count? Because everything is.
Well, it's $2 million now, then deferred for 8 years, 10 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're spending a lot of money with other folks as well, so they're spending it. But again, it's I don't mind it, right? And I think every other organization, NBA, NFL players associations are wildly jealous of baseball because they can't make that guaranteed money. And NFL and NBA, it's not as guaranteed. So
I think NBA is pretty close, but I don't disagree with you. And there's so few players. But I will say this. The tickets, somebody's making money on these tickets over in Japan, because I've heard to get in the building, you're talking 4 figures, so at least $1,000 US.
Man,
to get in the building.
That's incredible. So let's get back to that, Brian. Opening day, I got some things. We'll share some stories of opening days from Little League through Pro Ball and some of our memories. So I remember as a kid, and so here's another thing. My parents listen or watch us most of our podcasts or watch us on YouTube. And my parents were like, we're learning a lot about you through this podcast, Paul. Like
Oh, that's interesting.
And so they may learn something here.
Okay.
So I remember in probably late elementary, definitely middle school, on opening day, I would always fake sick. Like pretend I was sick.
Oh, to see like MLB games, not your personal opening.
No, not mine. Yeah. Like when MLB opened up, so that I could watch the 1 o'clock game or noon game on ESPN or wherever it was showing. And I'm sure my mom probably caught on because she was kind of a stay-at-home mom.
Same every year.
Yeah. Paul, you're sick on the early April. What is this? I don't know. Mom, just not feeling it today. Sinus infection. So mom and dad, I wanted to watch baseball. And so a couple years ago, I actually went to school and got my son out of school early. I think I've done it a couple times, and just checked him out so he could come home and watch opening day.
And what do you put on the excuse?
On the excuse, when reason for leaving, I put opening day.
That's beautiful.
And I don't think anybody ever checks that.
Well, I don't think they do either. I will say this: I was not as into it as you were as a kid, as far as watching. I was very much enjoyed playing. Kind of had a father who was very much, he watched it not for the enjoyment of the game, to try to pick stuff up.
To learn.
To give to us, because there wasn't all these YouTube videos and different things. And so it was always on our house.
Yeah.
Like from April until October.
Yeah.
Literally, you could go downstairs. We had this dog downstairs called Hoss. He's an English bulldog.
Hoss was watching the games?
Hoss was watching games, and we watched. I mean, every night the TV was on baseball in our basement. I mean, literally every night.
Was it? I guess
down there. It was a lot of TBS, a lot of.
Yes, it's probably the Superstation. Yeah.
But dude, literally, I bet for 10 years. I mean, every night. And again, there would be weekends and different things. We'd watch movies, different things. But I'm serious. During the week, it was baseball, and I saw my share of it. And so I don't know if I kind of resisted that as a younger person trying to get in. As I've gotten older, I appreciate there's some nostalgia to it now.
Oh, certainly,
But at the time, dude, I wasn't nearly what you were.
yeah.
When it comes to being into it.
When I remember too getting home every day from school. I grew up a big Cubs fan
Yeah.
because the Cubs were on
WGN.
TV every day. WGN at 2:00 at home,
Yeah.
because they didn't have lights until August of 1988, and a lot of kids I think grew up Cubs fans because of that. Like they're
I don't disagree.
and same thing with the Braves. And one of my best friends in middle school, he was a big Braves fan, and so I'd go home, watch the Cubs. And then I'd go down to his house later on. We'd watch 7:05 start time, the TBS. And he was a big Dave Justice. Did you have a favorite Brave?
Oh, you almost said Dave Justice. I like.
Yeah, Dave Justice. That was my buddy's guy.
I mean, Chipper was a little bit older because he played. He kind of crossed over our ears a little bit. But, as I got to where I was kind of trying to watch guys, especially a pretty left-handed swing, even though I still think he flies open a little bit on his left-handed swing, Chipper Jones was really good. I was kind of a Terry Pendleton guy.
Pendleton,
right?
yeah, the 91 MVP.
So he came over from the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And then goes to the Braves as, not a big guy. I think that's what I always appreciated about baseball. And I was always a bigger for my age, but there was never these size requirements to be a really good player.
Until you get to the mid-90s and got on steroids. Then then
you had to get so thick, but tall wasn't a requirement.
height was never a thing. Yeah.
The greatest players going back, and we've talked about this, were around 6 foot tall, 6'2". And, so anyway, Terry Pendleton was probably a guy that I really watched. I was a middle infielder, and I was starting to transition to third base as I got into high school a little bit more.
Okay. So, yeah, that makes sense.
And obviously Chipper, but he was 11, and then I guess Chipper was right after Terry then, right?
Right after, then he moved to the outfield. What about Ryan Klesko? He had a big lefty swing. Too big?
I didn't like him. It was too goofy. It wasn't smooth. One of the uglier left-handed swings, I thought.
Just big swing.
It looked very kind of unorthodox. It looks almost like he was hitting opposite-handed.
Yeah.
It was
interesting.
I was not a fan of his swing.
Sid Bream, another lefty.
I
he had an old
swing.
man
He's
swing.
a Liberty boy. Went to Liberty University. Could not run. I probably should have been a fan of him. I could run a little bit, but he was notoriously slow.
Well, then he beat the throw out in the 91 LCS.
And I wonder if they had review if he really beats that.
I think he did. Yeah,
you think
Bonds
so?
made a terrible throw too.
No, you're not wrong there. But it's so man, they just had. I mean, I can name a lot of them though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's. Who was the shortstop for all those years?
Well, they had Jeff Blauser, Mark Lemke, Rafael Belliard. All up the middle. Raphael Furcal.
Furcal's who I was trying to think of, dude.
Yeah.
Little guy, hose. Looked like he was on Winstraw. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't.
Was, yeah.
And he could throw the.
He had a rocket. Had a rocket. All kinds of range, everything.
Yeah. So anyway, I wasn't nearly the fan you were. I was more. I love playing. I love those. I was never real high, get up, get down kind of guy. And I was never really a big pomp and circumstance, but just the competition. And so that's really what I enjoyed. And then you watch through the year, the Braves were there every year, so you're watching them in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, from 91
and the energy in the
forever,
stadiums changed once the playoffs happened. And so, so you've obviously mentioned you were in middle school or young. You were skipping school.
So I remember so for most Cub fans of around our age, the 94 opening day was Carl Tuffy Rhodes.
Okay.
Hit 3 home runs on opening day.
Wow, that's good.
And I remember, this guy's. Then you're kind of scanning. Do I have any of his baseball cards? And he had a couple of them, like off Doc Gooden, who was still a thing at the time. He was with the Mets. And, man, Tuffy Rhodes, 3 home runs on opening day. I think he had 14 for the year. But what an opening day.
Yeah, I'm sure he chased that feeling. As a hitter, I can remember being locked in and the ball looking so big. I was watching this thing on YouTube earlier today, and they were talking about, guys that really flashed really bright in spring training and then were released in the season. And there were a number of guys. They had 400 in spring training, 60, 70, 80 at-bats and hit 6, 8, 10 home runs. And then all of a sudden, within 3 to 4 months, they were hitting $120 and were released or were on to their next team and traded. And so it's, baseball is such a different sport because it is such a results-driven sport. And, you don't get a whole lot of leadway once you are to that age and they think you should perform, they're moving you along. right?
Oh,
And so,
absolutely, absolutely. And that's an interesting point you bring up, right? Is you're in spring training, you're in Phoenix or you're in Florida, or I guess Tucson. You're in Arizona or Florida. Great weather. Gets a little warm even towards the end.
which is awesome.
And then, so for me, right, I had several opening days. The first one I was in short season, so we actually went to Ogden, Utah, in 1997, and it was June, so it was
Later.
beautiful in Ogden. But 1998, I go to Beloit, Wisconsin. Early April
not
in
ideal.
Beloit, Wisconsin is miserable. It's still winter. Like it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
what I know as winter growing up in North Carolina. And we were just, it's so cold. Everybody's wearing big goose down jackets. That's through April and early May still. And I felt terrible. And I didn't realize this at the time. Like the Dominican guys didn't have jackets. They never had to have a jacket in their life.
Oh yeah, yeah, and couldn't afford one if they needed one.
No, weren't getting, didn't get the first paycheck until, a couple weeks into the season. And, fortunately that a couple of them would wear their like bullpen jackets home back and forth. I know we talked about not wearing the stuff, but when that's your only jacket, you got to do what you got to do,
Wear
man.
it everywhere.
Yeah. So it was,
So along those same paths, I was watching this guy. We talked about, you were having dinner, and we were talking about like weird injuries and Verdugo. Is that how you say his name?
Verdugo.
Verdugo with his batting glove, allergic to batting gloves. How they would tan, how they would die. But what made me think, that another guy they had on there was a guy named Fairbanks,
Okay.
pitcher. He has a circulation issue, so when it's cold, he literally loses feeling in his hands. And so
So he's got to play for the Marlins, basically.
Well, he's with Tampa, but he's
Okay.
kind of been flipping around, but he's never been able to perform because it's like extreme, like
Yeah.
losing feeling and trying to throw a baseball with no feeling.
It's impossible. Yeah.
And so originally they thought it was like truly a medical, like something's wrong, an injury.
Yeah.
But it's just the condition. Like there's nothing that can be done. So
No
in
blood
cold
thinners or nothing.
Yeah, in the cold environment, there's nothing they can do. But Fairbanks, he's interesting to listen to. He's given up a couple of home runs in bad situations. And
I've
it's the
seen his
same guy.
interviews. Yeah,
And he's like,
I've
that's
seen
terrible.
this.
That's terrible.
He's like, I'm garbage. I should be released. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
He's awesome, dude. He seems like a very likable guy.
Yeah, he takes ownership of it immediately, which is always cool. So, I do have a few opening day stories for you, Brian, that I remember. So, I mentioned Ogden, Utah. So that was my first. So I went to spring training. I thought I was going to make the low A roster. They kept me in extended spring training. So extended spring training is exactly what it sounds like. You just stay in spring training. You continue to play games against other organizations in Phoenix was where I was, and then once the draft happens, you go to short season A. And so our short season was in Ogden, Utah. So I didn't go there in '96 because I just got drafted. '97, they actually opened up a brand new stadium, and
good fan turnout.
Great fan. So my pitching coach, he was my pitching coach in '96, and then so '97 we're opening a new state, but we started on the road. So I think we played 3 or 4 games on the road. But he goes, "Hey, Stu, I want you to pitch the first game in the new stadium." So he said, "You'll be the 4th starter, right?" So I got it. Right? I was like, that's pretty cool. Like he's kind of looking out for me. And so, man,
or he's making you feel good about being the 4th
maybe
starter.
that, but I think it was legit. I think it was legitimate. He was looking out for me and wanted me to kind of have that experience. And so I was like, man, that's cool. So we open in Billings, and then we come home, and man, there's a lot going on. Like it's packed. So the stadium, I can't remember, maybe 5,000 or so.
Yeah, but
sold out.
You went straight from high school. You never experienced like a college 3.
No, nothing like that at all.
Had any kind of thing that kind of give you that bridge.
Yeah, and so it was so packed that they actually put people on the field,
which is what
during the game.
Yeah.
So they were on the warning track. So they had roped off like the warning track, and people were legitimately, like literally, like 5 deep, standing on the field during the game, like in play.
What did they do if the ball was hit that way?
If the ball was hit into the thing, it was a ground rule double.
Oh, that sucks.
But in retrospect, I think they just wanted to do it like a zany minor league thing. There was a hill.
It feels very 1920s, 1930s, something they would have done.
There was a hill running down the left field. They could have stuck him somewhere else. But I think it was, Like, I'm still telling the story. Those people are still telling the story. And so it was packed. And then, so I'm out there doing my warm-up routine, but they're introducing all the players, big pomp and circumstance. And every player is riding in on a Harley Davidson. Like, they've got some biker, group. Oh, yeah. And so we're riding on the back of the Harley.
Hells Angels.
So
yeah.
So
you get on the back of a bike?
So I'm pitching warming up, and I see it all happening.
Did it not tell you in advance?
I don't remember, because I was starting pitcher, so I kind of got there late, right? I didn't get there, and so my pitching coach was like, "You're not doing that." Like, Steve, I want to do that so bad.
Oh, you wanted to ride.
And so I rode on the back of the motorcycle.
Oh, my God.
Up to wherever it was. Then went through my last warm-up pitches. And so...
How'd you pitch?
So first batter of the game, a guy named Jake Thrower. We're playing the Idaho Falls Padres. So the Padres farm team. And they made it... Anyway. So I'm like, I'm gonna strike this dude out. So I go 2-0.
Great. Get
back to 2-2. Fouls off one. Get to a full count. I'm like, I got to strike this dude out. This is first batter of this. Throw a heater right by him. Zip. Pow! Home run. So first official batter in the stadium.
Your first professional?
No, this was my second year.
Second year, but first long season?
First full season. And so the crowd, it was because the crowd was on their feet, like literally on their feet, like just strike out, like going crazy. And it was like one of the most awkward silence, because like people didn't know whether to clap or boo, or it was just like a weird, like,
holy smokes,
total letdown of it.
Yeah, then you let them down.
And I let them, and then I think I gave up a couple runs in the first. We kind of had a rough first inning. I remember our second baseman let like 5-hold one. Nobody's trying to make an error. I remember that happening.
Right.
A tough inning.
Yeah.
And man, but Ogden, Utah, man, great season, really fun stadium to play at, and they did a lot of kind of fun promotional things.
Dude, that's really cool. Really cool. When did you, like, your last couple years? I was never, and it sounds like maybe you were. It feels like you're kind of into the pomp and circumstance. Like, you like.
No, that was the only time.
Because you're 19 years old or 20. You probably.
I was 18.
18 years old.
I was 18.
For
yeah.
Sure. Different.
And I'm normally not doing that.
You're normally not into that.
No.
Like,
I don't know why. I don't know what overcame me that night. Because I'm like, this isn't going to help me get prepared for anything.
That's hilarious.
And I remember, so going through the pomp and circumstance. Fast forward a few years. So 2003, I'm with the Red Sox. So we're Pawtucket Red Sox. We opened the season in Buffalo.
Okay.
And just as cold as it was in Beloit opening the season, it was the same in Buffalo. And I was very, very cool. I was the opening day starter for the AAA team for the Red Sox. Like, man, this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is, because you're that close.
Yeah, but game time temperature was like 27 degrees. Gray.
Body just doesn't move right.
No, it was gray, overcast, just like. And if you've been to Buffalo in the winter, like, that's kind of a Buffalo day, right?
Yeah, it's a nice day.
And so they've called for some like winter precipitation, all that kind of stuff. And so I go out, I have on my jersey, I have a sweatshirt on, and then I have my jacket on. And that's how I'm warming up to like throw and play catch. And
how many layers you wearing under jersey?
Just to like an Under Armour, like the thicker sleeves. And so I actually start sweating a little bit. Like, get going. Like, I'm running and just doing things to get ready. And I'm doing my long toss, and I hop up on the mound. I take the jackets off in the sweatshirt. So I want to pitch my jersey because I want to be.
Right.
And then they stop. They do the national anthem, but they also do the Canadian national anthem.
Oh yeah.
Because they're so close to the border. And I throw my jacket and stuff back on. But by the time they're done with, it's like 5 minutes worth of flags on and off and songs. I'm back to square one, and it's just.
So you go out there.
And so I start warming up again. I ended up going 3 innings. I think I went it was an odd line. It was like 3 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikes. Something kind of odd like that. It wasn't
right.
It wasn't great, but everybody was kind of on a lower pitch count.
Yeah.
So
y'all still were doing pitch count, and you still were lower.
So it was because of the weather. Like,
okay.
I had built myself up in Fort Myers to throw a good, like, probably 85, 90 pitches, but they
were
wanted to be
keeping it low.
they wanted to be a little more cautious, and everybody
It
was.
feels like it should be an automatic that you open up in the South, especially in these bigger leagues
Yeah.
where they're
Well,
not just
everybody
truly
can't.
regional.
Yeah. But so for that game, it started raining or sleeting or something. Literally icicles on the grass. Catcher's mask would have icicles hanging from it. We finished. I think we lost. I think like 9-8 or something. It wasn't a well played game, but nobody could feel their hands. Guys were getting jammed. Like
so tough, dude.
But it was, and then so the next 3 games we get weathered out in Buffalo. Then we go home to Pawtucket, get snowed out for 4 days. So we don't play for like a week. Yeah.
Which is so odd because once you're in minor league ball, it is truly an everyday, and it takes a minute for your body to kind of get used to it. And then when you don't do it, it's really weird for you for it to not be doing it because you've been on this schedule, right? And it's tough, dude. I never got to a level where we were playing up there. I think about my college opening days. I think about even when I was younger. It was just the excitement. And I think anytime this time of year, I feel like there's like a renewed optimism for life.
Oh,
it's still to this day. I mean, there's like this chance you're starting with a 0-0 batting average, or you're in your case 0-0 ERA.
Yeah.
And every spring it still comes to like, all right.
Well, it's the flowers, it's the grass, it's
but I feel like it kind of hits me in February, right? Which is when the college
spring training,
is when it kind of starts, and then as it gets nicer weather, even more so. But there is like that December, January. It's kind of like it's kind of is a dredge. You kind of dealt with whatever year you dealt with. We both in sales, and you obviously got numbers you're trying to hit, need to hit, should hit, and but every like February, March, it's like, all right, there's kind of a renewed optimism about, all right, we can figure this out. We can get through this, dude. We can get through this.
Absolutely. And you think that's like to the movie Major League. Remember the Major League? They're talking about like spring, like who are these guys? And they're out there, and the guy's giving the speech at the beginning of the season, and the outfield, the fan, and like, we're terrible. We're no good. Yeah.
Well, I use probably Major League references more than I wonder if any of my kids get it. Like we had a kid, ball was smoked, but he's playing third base. He gave it the old
the Roger Dorn.
Yeah, I was like, nice play, Roger Dorn.
Nice play, Dorn.
and I don't even know if anybody else. I mean, obviously some of the other coaches get it or guys on our side, but it's like I give so many references. Willie Mays age, you got a guy that can really run, popping balls
Pop him in the cage, yeah.
Yeah, you get a guy who's struggling on breaking balls. You think about need to pray,
Serrano,
eat a chicken or kill a chicken.
I got to meet him. The actual actor who played Pedro Serrano, he was going around stadiums on an All-State tour.
Oh, no kidding!
Just like talking about insurance, I guess. But he was in Indianapolis. He was in the clubhouse one time, and
what'd you think?
Smaller than I had thought.
Oh yeah, they definitely portrayed him as like I would have guessed 6'2", 6'3".
In the movie, I thought like 6'5",
okay.
but I think he was probably 6'1", maybe.
Okay, so good size, but not
decent size. But like when you're around a bunch of ball players, that's very average. He's not he wasn't like Pedro Serrano. Like they portrayed him as like 6'5" mammoth of a human being, just hitting.
Which compared to actors, good.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was crazy, but great movie. I got one more opening day, and I have to apologize to Jared Mathis for this. So Jared Mathis was a roommate, a teammate, just great human being. And so my first start in 1999, we were in San Bernardino, California, down in the southern half of the Cal League. And so I'm out there warming up, and it was a Sunday, kind of an evening, like a little early. So the sun was pretty bright still, and there was a lot of like those old white signs out in that stadium. And Mathis had stepped into the batter's box. He's, hey, before game, guys will say, hey, can I step in? And just track pitches. I'm like, sure. And so I'm warming up, and it's no big deal. It happens.
Oh yeah,
pretty much every game.
I would frown upon it now if somebody did it in travel baseball, but in minor league ball,
yeah. And so Mathis is standing there, and I wanted to try to run a fastball in under his hands. Got away from me a little bit, hit him in the head.
Oh, so he was still your teammate.
He was my teammate.
Oh, he was still your teammate.
He was standing in, just tracking pitches.
Oh, I thought you were saying, okay, yeah.
No, he was tracking pitches. I hit him in the head.
Oh gosh.
With no helmet on.
Oh my.
And he goes down.
Oh god.
And I'm like, oh god. Like I wasn't like didn't throw like 98, but I was throwing
hard enough to kill.
Upraised low 90s, right? Yeah. He goes down, everybody rushes to him. And I'm just like, oh man, I felt terrible because again he was like legit. I lived with him for a year, and just he'd been my teammate for a couple years, and crap, dude. Like, and I think he was in the line. They had to change the lineup clearly, and so I ended up warming up. I actually throw really well. With like 6 shutout innings, something like that. I had
Compartmentalize it.
good start
Very
to
good.
the year, and the worst part of this, that was the last day of our road trip, and so we were in the southern part of the state and had to drive to the northern part. So it's mountains, hills, and so he had a concussion.
For sure.
Right? Said he still had like ringing in his ears for like a long time after. But I hear him on the back of the bus just going, like throwing up the whole ride home because he
shouldn't have been in the vehicle.
Probably should have just stayed in San Bernardino, but he was on the team. He was a trooper, and on the back of the bus, just
what kind of year did he have?
Let's see. So 1999, Mathis. He only played 23 games in Stockton that year. Hit 230, but that was good enough to get him moved up to Double A.
Wow.
Or he hit 225 in 97 games. So Mathis was one of those guys, the ultimate kind of utility guy, could pretty much play every position. A little undersized. What's it listed? 5'10", $180 is what he's listed at. It's probably fair.
Yeah.
But he could catch, play pretty much every infield position, play the outfield if you need him to. I think he probably pitched a couple times in some of those big. And I think he was one of those guys that actually, when you're playing all 9 positions in a game,
like Okendo.
Yeah, just kind of as a fun thing to do. So,
hey, tell me this. Like, let's completely jump. Obviously, we got opening day with the Dodgers, and who besides the Dodgers do you give a legitimate chance?
Oh man, not many. And the Dodgers feel like they are the pick in the National
League. It's hard to.
Yeah,
I mean, they got better and won it last year.
Yeah, I think that the Mets you have to give a legitimate chance to with that lineup, right? With Lindor and
Sosa,
Soda, with Lindor, Soto, Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, and then they came on strong last year. Still have good pitching. The Central, I don't think the Central has enough. I mean, the Brewers won it last year. The Cubs were favored to win. I don't think either of those teams have enough depth or firepower to do that again this year. I mean, I think the Dodgers. I mean, the Padres are tough in the West still. They've got a decent team.
Diamondbacks are really well.
Diamondbacks still young, right? Yeah. That sort of thing. But I think the National League is certainly the Dodgers to win. And then whoever they face in the American League, right? I think it's
up to Yankees.
Probably Yankees.
Boston's going to be interesting.
Boston will be fun to watch this year with Bregman over there. I think the Tampa Bay Rays always find a way to win 85 to 90 games. But again, I think there's
real because of what their salary generally is.
Their salary minimum, yeah. And I think, and the Astros always seem to find a way to get in there and
they've kind of had a real turnover. You got, what's his name, playing left field now?
Altuve's out there left, yeah.
Little midget playing left. And, dude, you think about it, our kids are above 5'6". He's legitimately 5'6". And for him to create the bat speed that he does, it's incredible, dude. I mean,
yeah.
I've seen him run around. He looks so weird. He looked kind of weird at second base. He looks really weird out in the outfield. Yeah, I mean, as far as
just swallows him up.
Yeah, just super small, but he's tracking down balls. I've seen him in some spring training games. He's tracking down balls, running well. Yeah.
Well, I think the Orioles as well. I think the Orioles have a real chance. The
Orioles have drafted so well, dude. I've seen a couple of YouTube videos on their last 5 or 6 drafts. Their top 2 or 3 picks have really hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Jackson Holliday could have that breakout year this year.
It's kind of weird. He's kind of setting in that. That 4A, you have AAA and then you have quadruple A.
But he's also like 20 years old.
He's still young.
Yeah, he's really young.
But even without him, I mean, he's going to have to fight to get on the field because there's so many other good players.
He's starting at second base. He'll start at second base, and then that'll be his position.
There's another guy, but you're probably
so
right.
The Orioles will be good, and then the Central again is. I mean, the Tigers, Twins, and Guardians all made it last year.
The Tigers was bizarre. I can remember.
And the Royals made it last year too, didn't they? Or they were close, but
they were close.
But again, all those teams are. Did the Twins make it?
The Twins did make it.
Did the Twins, Guardians, Royals? Did they have 4 teams?
I don't know.
Hold on. No, the Twins didn't make it. gotta reset that.
All right, reset.
So the Central should be solid, right? The Guardians, Royals, Tigers all made it. The Twins were really, really close. And then the Rangers now. Look for the Rangers to kind of have a bounce back year. They've got that lineup is solid, man. They're going to hit.
Young guys and some young good arms.
Yeah.
You know, that Jock, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll be curious if his translates to the season because he's got to be in the big leagues. I know he is with Kansas City, I believe, and dude, his swing is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
But you talk about young guys who've made it to the big leagues quick. He's
right there. And a couple teams I forgot in the National League. I mean, the Fighting Phils and the Braves in the East.
Yeah, didn't even mention the Phillies.
Yeah, I love the Phils, man. That lineup's so fun to watch, and
I hate their fans, but it's dude. I think the team probably the most American team in the MLB. You think about their
Edwin Sosa, but I mean Harper, Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Alec Bohm. Realmuto behind the plate, Schwarber DHing, Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, and then I think Cody Clemens maybe in left. But all kind of American guys.
And
Realmuto, he's from like Cali or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. You said it with such a good accent that I didn't even recognize it as being American name. I'm sure you said it correctly, but you threw the extra. You said it properly, probably.
Yeah, and Castellanos is from down like Miami. So.
Yeah. I'm sure he's got Cuban.
He's got some Cuban heritage. Yeah. But man, in the Phillies, I think they'll. I mean, Zach Wheeler can stay healthy, and Aaron Nola.
I don't see anybody
beating the Dodgers.
I mean, the Dodgers are just.
Yeah, that's
it's just too much, dude. I just don't see anybody getting to a point to where they're able to. If it was a 1-game set. Yeah, you'll be able to beat them.
Yeah, one-on-one. Yeah, but the Dodgers have like 4 Cy Young guys. I mean,
Snell struggled a little bit. They played an exhibition game against the Tokyo.
Yeah, well, I mean, in those exhibition games, you're throwing fastball, changeup. You're not breaking anything off. You're saving it.
Again, I know. I'm sure you had no chance to look up the spike change. It's new. They call it.
Yeah.
It's the all new indoor.
What they had last year, the turbo change.
Turbo change we had last year. It feels like a few years ago. All these names are new to me. Like Sweeper wasn't a name that I ever thought about.
It's all about branding. If you can brand something, that's what it's all about.
What would you have named your forkball? Would you have named it like freaking
Forky, like the guy from Toy Story? Have you seen that one?
Well, Forky. I was going more like, hey, if you can hit it, you can name it. Thinking about me. Yeah. I had a teammate one year, Dan Matthews. He started naming his. He was a funny guy, but he called his changeup the Transformer. Okay.
Because it changed so much.
Okay.
The funniest one was he called his curveball the Prostitute.
Huh.
He said because it was a big dirty hooker.
No, that feels good, appropriate.
That was a pretty good one. Yeah. But I got some opening day facts for you here, Brian.
Okay, I need them.
Frank Robinson.
Yeah.
Of the Reds, Orioles, maybe another team, has the most home runs on opening day with 8.
Really, I figured there would be more than that.
Seems like there should be more. That's what Google tells me.
Okay.
Trust you, Google. The best record, surprisingly, for any team by winning percentage, the New York Mets, 41-22, a 651 clip.
A lot of optimism early up there, and then it dies real quick.
And then the worst by winning percentage is the Marlins at 413. They're only 12-17. They haven't had as many.
They're a younger franchise, but even the Mets aren't that old either. When you think about
69. The 69 Mets one, they came around in 60, 61 in that time frame. Yeah,
so still not relative to some of these teams.
The Red Sox and Yankees and all these teams that have been around for.
But hey, shout out to our boy Clayton McCullough, manager of the Miami Marlins.
Yeah,
old ECU boy.
Yep,
played with him for a minute with the Indians in the minor leagues, and his dad, Howard McCullough,
a long-time scout. He was a scout for the Diamondbacks when I was coming through.
He was mine, too. And I never put that connection. And then I met. It's kind of weird. I'm not great at I've never been one of these guys that's been like, "Hey, who was your father?" Or like,
"Who's your daddy?"
I don't know. Like, I went to my original roommate at NC State was Goodman. And the guy the family who owns like G105, the Durham Bulls.
Well, jeez.
That was my original. Dude, people were coming up to me. Do you know who you remember? I mean, it just never. Now looking back, I should have made some connections.
You should have.
Right?
You should at least.
I should have a good job and have a
You
lot
should
of
have went
connections.
to Outback a couple times.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Something.
I mean, I knew something was up because again, I'm a broke college student, and again, very middle class family. Felt very fortunate, had a scholarship. But like the first day we're there, we hop in his truck and we go buy a new PlayStation, right,
Oh,
and
geez.
throw it in our dorm. He was gone in about 4 weeks and running for a frat, but I've never been one of these guys. So back to Clayton, like, you know, I knew his dad was this, I mean, after meeting him, I was like, oh yeah, I knew your dad, but I never knew, you know, his connection to ECU and, you know, and so congratulations to him, man.
Yeah, that's exciting. First opening day as a skipper. That's big time. So one more stat, Brian. Being a pitcher.
Okay.
Most opening day starts. And this list is kind of the who's who of the list, right? Tom Seaver had 16 opening day starts. Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson, Walter Johnson from way back in the day, and Jack Morris all tied for second.
We didn't get like a Satchel Paige, and maybe we're not.
Well, Satchel Paige played in the Negro Leagues.
Yeah,
for
but
so
he
long.
crossed over. But I thought we were counting those stats now. I thought they were
maybe, but I don't think he's affiliated with a major league team. Yeah, and then Roger Clemens, Robin Roberts, and Justin Verlander. So 13, 13, and 12 opening day starts.
What would be interesting from your perspective, maybe opening day, who's given up the most opening day home runs?
Paul Stewart's probably on that list. Yeah. One.
It's minor league ball.
It's a dubious honor, right? Because, well, one,
they got to think enough of you.
You got to be the opening day starters. That's a really big deal. But you could have one of those Paul Stewart Lancaster games. We gave him like 6 in one. So I did remember. So my last opening day memory I'll share. 2001. We're in High Desert, California, and so I've shared this. This was one of the best, if not the best, hitters park in professional baseball, as rated by Baseball America. Right up there with Colorado and Colorado Springs and Lancaster. And so I remember my first opening day start was a Sunday that year. So it was a Sunday day game, like a 2:00 start. And the wind was always worse in this during the day. And so I remember we're doing the national anthem, and I look up at the flag, and the flag is blowing out, like blowing, but not out, but kind of like up. Like up
there's a
and
jet.
out. I'm like, oh crap, this is gonna be a long season. And I don't remember. I think I did okay that start. Like I think I got a win. That started off pretty well that year, but that was a rough, just mental imagery of just. I remember like vividly seeing that flag. I'm like, ugh.
Well, I can tell you from the opposite
tough.
Perspective. A lot of times the doke would blow in early in the year, then it would turn, and you could almost just feel like all of a sudden
those warning track fly balls turned into home runs.
And you didn't have to hit the ball.
So did they do a big deal at Doak, like at NC State for opening day? Do you remember anything?
No, it really
They didn't care.
There wasn't this big pomp. I mean, I think they should have, right? And I think they get good crowds this year, and they do a really good job kind of promoting the game.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's a midweek, February 6th, 7th, 8th.
That's a tough,
early,
yeah.
And
you're probably playing at 2:00, so it's warmer weather.
Well, you may be playing it. You're definitely playing, before 5, right?
Yeah.
So you maybe get a few,
you get some students, get some old people.
Yeah, but you don't get working. I just think
it's not an ACC Friday night.
No. And a lot of times those series are really good, but there was no real pomp and circumstance. There wasn't like
you probably ran out lined up and
there wasn't any.
No Harley Davidsons.
No models that I can recall, and so it was just kind of basic. Hey, let's play new season. Yeah,
there you go. So, well, man, we hope you all enjoy opening day today. It's a little early start on the East Coast, a 6:00 start on the East Coast. But 5:00?
Yeah. At least the broadcast. I'm not sure when the game actually starts.
I think the game starts at 6.
So I know the broadcast. I was listening to MLB Network, and the broadcast said 5:00. But I'm sure if there's that much hype, our one listener in Japan, if he has been relaying.
We got a few over in Japan.
Okay, so maybe. I mean, I feel like I need to pick up that language a little bit better. I don't. Ni hao would be my limits of.
Ni hao, yeah. 6 a.m. it says 6 a.m.
So if you get up and eating your eggs and bacon, you can have a minute. I mean, it doesn't really feel right for it not to be in America though, does it?
Well, this is opening kind of this is the precursor to opening day. So we'll hit up more opening day once the opening day stuff happens in the states here. So, but happy opening day. We hope you all enjoy it. Continue liking and listening and leaving reviews on all the podcast platforms and comments in YouTube. We appreciate that. And if you have questions about any of our opening day stuff, Wright Stewart Podcast at gmail.com. Hey, thanks for listening today.
Out. Go back.